Today we are driving the 2025 Audi Q7 55 Premium Plus, but as always, let me give you a brief tour of the car before we get it out on the road. The Q7 has been refreshed for the 2025 model year. The key fob design, however, has stayed the same, being finished in high gloss black and aluminum. It feels very high quality. The exterior is elegant and classy. In typical Audi fashion, you have very advanced and premium headlights, some functional ventilation at the bottom, and a large one-piece grille. That will be surrounded in matte chrome. Moving around to the side, the premium model, which is the base model, comes standard with 19-inch 5-spoke wheels. However, if you choose the optional convenience package, you get these 20-inch split-spoke wheels. I think these are the perfect size. Additionally, you will find body-colored wheel arches, body-colored moldings at the bottom, some matte chrome trim, and the mirrors will include heating, blind spot monitoring, and power folding. Auto-dimming is available on the Prestige. Taking a step back to look at the side profile, this car is not an obnoxious size, measuring in at 199 inches long. It also has a very conventional SUV shape, which I think looks very nice. The wheel and tire setup in the back is the exact same as the front, and you will find some matte chrome trim surrounding the windows. Overall, the side profile has a very nice look to it, and not much has changed, which is a good thing. At the back, you will continue to find a very classy and elegant design. At the bottom, you will find dual exhaust as well as some matte chrome trim finishing the bumper. There is also incandescent lighting, which is the second part of the taillights. The upper part of the taillights are very premium, so that does kind of make up for the fact that not all elements are LED. There is some more matte chrome trim on the Audi logo and in between the taillights. Let's go ahead and open up the trunk with the hands-free access. Behind the third row, you will find 14.2 cubic feet of space. Additionally, you will find a netted cubby on the left side as well as a 12-volt outlet and some nice LED lighting. The third row is power folding, which is standard on the Q7, but unfortunately you do have to hold down the button, which is actually kind of hard. When you fold down the third row, the cargo space expands to 35.2 cubic feet of space, which isn't a lot, but is still usable. As a maximum, you will find 69.6 cubic feet of space. This is a mid-sized SUV after all, so I would say for the segments, those are some pretty good numbers. Not class-leading, but I would say it is still usable for some smaller families. To close the trunk, just push the button. I also want to mention that if you are planning on using the hands-free access, definitely do so because it works flawlessly. Now let's go ahead and check out the second and third rows on the Audi Q7. On the door panel, you will find a mix of materials including hard-touch plastic at the bottom, leather wrap through the center area, and some wood trim and soft-touch plastic at the top. Unfortunately, you do not get sunshades. To access the third row, fold this down and then pull the seat up. Unfortunately, this is kind of hard and tedious to do, and kids probably could not do this on their own. However, you can power fold up and down the third row from the second row. Now, the Q7 is the only 3-row vehicle from Audi because they haven't released a full-sized SUV yet, but unfortunately, the third row is very disappointing. At 5'10", with the seat slid all the way back, I have no legroom and the thigh support is very bad. However, headroom is not a problem. You will also find some cup holders, a plastic armrest, and a little window. No vents or USB ports, so only plan on putting small kids back here. Let's go ahead and check out the second row next and see if that is any better. I also want to mention that the seats are very flat and very uncomfortable in the third row. Now in the second row, you can see that I have plenty of legroom and headroom. The back of the seat is finished in a soft touch leatherette and there is netted pockets. Also, the seat is a lot more comfortable and can recline. Unfortunately, on the Space model, you cannot get rear seat heating, but that is available on the higher trims. In the middle, you will find 2 vents and a very simple version of a third zone of climate control. 4 zones are available on higher trims, and at the bottom, you will find a 12-volt outlet and 2 USB-C ports. Like in most other cars, part of the middle seat folds down for an armrest for extra comfort. You will also find 2 very tiny cup holders, and I genuinely do not know what could fit in these. However, I still like that Audi is thinking of that. But if you are planning on putting car seats in the back of the Q7, I am very happy to report that this is one of the best cars to do it in. You can easily fit 3 across back here because all the seats are independent from one another. The middle seat is also very wide and very comfortable. Let's go ahead and check out the front area next. On the door panel, you will find soft touch plastic and wood trim up top, leather wrap through the center area, and a good amount of storage space at the bottom. Your switchgear is going to be finished in matte black plastic. As far as the seats are concerned, on the Space model you will find faux leather seats with a very simple design. They have some stitching detail and they do feel relatively realistic and are pretty comfortable. You will also find 12 ways of power adjustment and heating. Getting inside the Q7 is relatively easy, and let's go ahead and start it up. Taking a look at the steering wheel, the Q7 has a very nicely weather-wrapped steering wheel on all models. I will say, however, that on the Prestige model, the leather feels a lot more high quality. The buttons are finished in matte black plastic and you will find some aluminum accents at the bottom. Audi always does their gauge clusters very nicely, and for the Q7, there is no difference. You can find a full screen map in the middle and a lot of customization. The graphics and resolution are very crisp and also look very nice. At the bottom part of the gauge cluster, you can also see the seatbelt status of the back seat so you can see which of your children are buckled or not. As far as the main infotainment system is concerned, the Q7 is no longer running the latest software. The system works relatively well and is pretty easy to use, although it is a little bit slow and laggy at times. You also get haptic feedback, so it feels more like a real button. You get built-in navigation, built-in Wi-Fi, as well as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is still a very nice system, although compared to something like the Acura MDX with Google built-in, it is not as nice. This smaller screen at the bottom is dedicated to your climate controls. I like this because it is very easy to use and these buttons never move. You can use these buttons to control the fan speed, and like the top screen, you will have haptic feedback. There is dual zone up front and one zone in the rear. This isn't as nice as having physical buttons, but it is basically as good as it gets. Now let's go ahead and talk about storage. Unfortunately, the Q7 doesn't do too well in this area, even though it is supposed to be Audi's most practical SUV. You will find two cup holders right here, a dedicated key slot, a 12-volt outlet, and a little tray for something like a snack. The center console is pretty tiny, but it does include belt lining and two USB-C ports. I also want to point out that they did remove the wireless phone charging pad. The shifter is located right here and does take up a good amount of space. It is pretty easy to use and feels pretty high quality. When you go into reverse, you will find a very high resolution backup camera with a 360 view. There are multiple other camera angles to choose from, like a front view or a front wide view in case you are parked next to a large car. There is also a 3D view so you can see exactly how well you parked in a parking space. I like that you can actually use the screen to control the 3D view, unlike some BMWs where you have to use gesture control. To put it in park, just push the P. As far as materials go, you will find a lot of gloss black with some aluminum that lights up at night. There is also some glossy wood trim and soft touch plastic. Up top, you will find a standard panoramic sunroof. I am ready to get this Q7 out on the road, so let's go ahead and wrap up this brief tour and do just that. Alright, we are driving the 2025 Audi Q7 55 Premium. As always, let's start off by talking about the powertrain. This Q7 has the 55 engine, which is a 3-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder engine putting out 335 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. That is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission and gets 18 mpg in the city, 23 on the highway, and 20 combined. Let's go ahead and see a little acceleration test. Wow, that is some serious power, and it is very easy to see why this is the most popular engine choice on the Q7. There are other powertrain options available though if you don't want this. The 45 engine is a little bit lower than this. It is a turbocharged 4-cylinder making about 260 horsepower. This is a lot cheaper and more fuel efficient. You can also get a turbocharged V8 on the SQ7 making about 500 horsepower. That is a big leap in performance compared to this vehicle, but I think a lot of people will be settling right here. That car is a lot more expensive as well. As far as around town driving, I have to say the Q7 offers a very nice driving experience. The ride quality is extremely smooth and there is very little wind noise entering the cabin. That is the first thing I noticed when I entered this Q7, it is so incredibly quiet in here. Also, the environment in this car is just great. A lot of new BMW and Mercedes products offer a lot of screens and a lot of gimmicks which are very nice to use, but it can be a little bit overstimulating if you just want to relax and drive. With this car, you know where everything is and this interior feels very familiar and friendly. This Audi isn't as attention-grabbing or as crazy as a BMW or Mercedes, but it's just going to get you from point A to point B in comfort. The size is also what adds to the comfort. This car is just under 200 inches long, which I think is a great size. It doesn't offer as much space as a full-sized SUV like a BMW X7 or Cadillac Escalade, but this is a lot more manageable to drive around town. It actually feels like a small hatchback or sedan, so you can easily and confidently maneuver in tight parking lots or go down narrow roads. I'm not saying that that's not possible in a large full-sized SUV, I'm just saying that this car inspires more confidence while doing so. We are about to enter the highway, so let's go ahead and do another acceleration test and test out this V6 engine. This engine is definitely no slouch. Expect 0 to 60 to come in about 5.5 seconds. The standard 4-cylinder engine is also pretty good too, it's just not as refined and doesn't sound as good as this V6. Now that we are on the highway, let's go ahead and talk about some highway driving dynamics. As far as wind noise goes, like I mentioned around town, it is very hushed in here. Let me go ahead and give you guys a sample. As you can probably hear, this car is very hushed on the highway. Even for the base model, this is very impressive. On the top Prestige trim, you actually get even more sound deadening, which is great. Ride quality is very good on the highway like I mentioned around town, and this car would be very comfortable on a long road trip or commute. As far as driving assistance goes, you only get the basics on this Audi Q7. Nothing in the form of hands-free driving like you can get on the Lincoln Aviator with Blue Cruise and the Cadillac XT6 with Super Cruise. Those systems work very well, and if you are planning on doing long road trips very often, that is definitely something to consider. Now the basic driver assistance tech on this Q7 works relatively well. There aren't really any problems that I've come across, so that is definitely a good thing, and they will take the fatigue off of driving a little bit. It is very nice that the Q7 comes standard with this because this is a family vehicle after all, and Audi wants their family to be safe. On the German rivals, the BMW X5 and the Mercedes GLE, you will have to pay extra for some of the systems. But we are about to exit the highway, so those are my thoughts on the highway driving dynamics. The ride quality is very good and the wind noise is kept to a minimum, but I would like to see some more driver assistance tech in the future. As far as the brakes go, they feel pretty strong, and I would say the brake pedal is pretty easy to modulate. They are not overly grabby, which is something that the Lincoln Aviator struggles with, but they do inspire confidence. Stronger brakes are available if you choose the more performance-oriented model, the SQ7. Now that we are back around town, let's talk about some other things like the handling and the transmission. Now that we are back in the city, we can go ahead and talk about things like the handling and transmission, but not before we talk about the turn signal sound. This is something I really appreciate about this Q7 because it is so mellow and relaxing. Audi really got down the pitch and the volume of the turn signal sound, and it does match the relaxed driving experience very well. Now let's talk about the handling. So we are about to take a corner pretty fast in this Q7, and so far the Q7 is inspiring confidence. There is a little bit of body roll, which is to be expected because this is after all the regular Q7. It is no SQ7 and doesn't have any fancy suspension. But overall, I would say the Q7's handling is very good. If you need to make a sudden turn, you can definitely do so in this vehicle. Now as far as the transmission is concerned, I am also very happy about this. It is very smooth and quick to shift, which is always a good thing to see. This 8-speed automatic transmission is not sport-tuned in any way, which is something that you would find on the SQ7, but it is still very quick to shift, very smooth, and definitely gets the job done very well. Well, we are about to wrap up this video on the 2025 Audi Q7 55 Premium. Overall, this car is a very appealing package. Yeah, there are some things that they could work on like interior storage and a little bit more room for that third row, but for smaller families that don't need a full-sized SUV, this car is an amazing choice. The driving experience is very relaxing, the exterior design is elegant and clean, the interior is very high quality and luxurious, especially on the Prestige model, and there's a usable amount of space in the second row and the trunk. But what do you guys think? Would you buy this over the Lincoln Aviator or the Acura MDX? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.